So it's not really about the fish, you know. It is about Simon's willingness to follow Jesus' direction, even though he certainly knew a whole lot more about fishing than Jesus did. It is about abundance. It's not really about the fish, not really. It is about what God can do, what God does do in wholly unexpected places, in entirely unanticipated places. And that is, I think, especially good news for all of us in this weird COVID, everything is turned upside down time we are in. Will you pray with me? Oh, gracious God, help us to become masters of ourselves so that we might become the servants of others. Take our minds and think with them. Take our lips and speak through them. Take our hands and work with them, and take our hearts and set them on fire with your Spirit. Amen. This story is about what God can do, what God does do in wholly unexpected places, in entirely unanticipated places. And so I've been trying to put myself in Simon's shoes, or sandals, as the case may be. I have tried to put myself in Simon's shoes to experience his exhaustion, his skepticism. Really? You got to be kidding me, Jesus. Maybe his amazement at this itinerant teacher who has suddenly commandeered one of his boats on a morning when he probably wants nothing more than to go home, get some rest, only to do this all again tomorrow. I've tried to put myself in Simon's shoes, Simon who followed Jesus' unlikely direction and then suddenly hauled the biggest catch of fish in his life. I've tried to put myself in Simon's shoes to wonder at what it must have been like to simply then just walk away from a catch which surely could have set him up for a long time, if not the rest of his life. But he walked away from that. I've tried to put myself in Simon's shoes, and so I find myself wondering now about success, or what I have long developed as my understanding of who I am and what I'm particularly good at. And now, what I'm maybe called to leave behind. And what, other than the very call of God, would possibly compel me to do so? Why would I do that? It also has me wondering, for St. Paul's, about what has long been the understanding of St. Paul's strengths, at what St. Paul's is particularly good at, and what perhaps St. Paul's now is being called to leave behind. And what on earth would make St. Paul's do that other than the very call of God? I have spent my life honing what I believe to be my strengths. But what if, even now, my understanding, my self-understanding, is being transformed by the one who steps into each of our boats and changes everything? Because again, it's not about the fish. Those fish just stand as a symbol of what God can do in the most unlikely places. It is about calling each and all of us to a new and different life. And for those of us who have heard and responded to this call to get out of our boats and go after Jesus, what does that look like? We've done this in the past. Perhaps we're being invited to do this again, or in different ways, to follow Jesus. Certainly in maybe deeper ways. Certainly in what feels like very uncharted territory. But one thing I notice about myself is that maybe I'm getting older, but what used to really frighten me about uncharted territory and sticking to the familiar, that doesn't frighten me as much. Maybe I'm learning that God's good gifts are the reason for whatever success I have ever had. That it really has never been up to me. I am a slow learner. But I think surely this is the message in today's gospel story. That message about all the fish. So it also has me wondering about where you are and the boat you are in. What might you learn about yourself, about the world, about St. Paul's, if you put yourself in Simon's shoes? What might you be being called to leave behind in order to fully respond to God's call today? And what might that look like for St. Paul's? I'm intrigued by our contemporary voice and this image of being stone catchers. When was the last time you stepped out of your safe boat to respond to Jesus' call? And what did you learn? And how were you changed as a result? Amen. Now I invite us to have a time for reflection